Oh my God, Franny, shut up. Shut your mouth. It's coming. Hang on. God, you see the way that he talks to me? Oh my God, hello everybody.
Welcome
it's
to the
me,
bonfire,
Stoic
unkindled
Chan.
one.
Bingo!
Stoicism 97.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much, Felicity Ryan, for subscribing. I greatly appreciate it. Thank you so much for being there pretty much from the beginning. We've been pushing this thing along for about 10 months. So being there for 8 out of the 10 feels good to me in a way that I can hardly parse or explain using the limitations of the English language. How's everybody doing? Hello, Nespa. All these wonderful people right out of the gate. Shout out to Nespa. My OBS is lagging for some reason. I love that for me. Thankfully, we're not going to be doing too much typing, and I'll explain what the hell this is in like 5 seconds. Welcome, I am Poppy Seeds. You are more than welcome to take whatever you would like from the break room that is on your right. Do not concern yourself with the horrifying noises that you hear through the walls. It's just the pipes. Just the pipes. It's nothing to worry about. Happens literally all the time. Along with something that sounds like distant screaming, like "Let me out, let me out." It's not. It's just a weird. It's just a weird coincidence. It means nothing. It means nothing. Donuts are stale, so avoid. Don't fucking shout me out. I'm gonna do it anyway. You know what? I'm gonna fucking do it again. That's so much of a shit I don't give. Shout out. It's Franny B. Shout out Bridget. Yeah, Bridget brought cake. So make sure that you turn that frown upside down. Okay, and become down with the clown. Shout out Bridget Jamala. Shout out Blue Blur. Hello. Hello. So I'm gonna go into like a little bit of a spiel, and then we'll kick this thing off, whatever this thing is going to be. The only interruption that I think that we're gonna get is me borderline begging my upstairs neighbor, who goes outside, heaven forbid, because they need to, physically go to work and then come back from work, to bring me a 32-ounce bottle of peppermint mocha creamer, because I was prepping for the stream, so I needed to, mind my P's and Q's in terms of time. I got to use every part of the buffalo. I gotta make some orange juice, gotta make sure the juice is worth the squeeze, all that. You get this. So excited for this, can't wait to settle in. You're in my ear on Doggo Walk right now. That's a big honor, because you honestly could be replacing me with anything else. And you get a shout out, and you get a shout out. Why don't you buy it? I could. I did. I thought I was going to be fine because I went to my local Mennonite country store, as you do, and they do not have a ton of what we would consider to be luxury items in there, and creamer, like actual honest to God peppermint mocha creamer from Coffee Mate, is not one of them. I did make the mistake of picking up a $3.20 bottle of what identifies itself as non-dairy original creamer that tastes like nothing. So I'm just putting nothing in the coffee, and I thought that would be fine. And I considered that because they are still out, they're still out there in the outside, that they could quickly pop next door and and help me out. You're doing what to me? I don't even know what you heard. But it starts with Nuno and ends with your business. Did you get jalapeno pickled eggs? No, they're like $8, and they're cute, but it's also like 50% of my daily content of cholesterol with each egg. And while I don't eat an egg more than once a day, that's a heart clogger right there. I heard to coffee. Oh no, like Coffee Mate. Coffee Mate. We're on about the actual drink, yeah. But let's talk about you for a disproportionately long amount of time and all the different compliments that I can insert into the conversation immediately thereafter. Starting with, I'm kidding, I'm not going to do that to you. So we're going to run this a little bit differently than our normal streams. I'm going to sort of just talk with you and at you about Stoicism, which is a life philosophy I've been practicing steadily for about 10 years and probably forever at this point. It's the closest thing that I have personally found for myself that helps me make sense of understanding why the world is the way that it is, how I can overcome that when it's being the way that it is, especially right now, and help others potentially arrive, you know, to the same psychological benefits, right? I'm going to be stopping occasionally myself to read questions on the anonymous question site that you just pinned at the top, Telegram. But stop me anytime for any reasons to ask things, to say things. I'm going to be reading off of chat as quickly as I can, as I normally do. It's just going to be chat, you and I hanging out, talking about stuff as simple as how to feel better about accidentally pouring hot sauce all over our favorite shirt, to how do I, Pastel Coffee, Bridget Jabala, Nespa, so on and so forth, No Flow, Mennonite Gaming, make sure that I do the right thing, even when I've got the most to lose in a rough work environment. And I've been there. I've been there. I've been asked to turn what is really a fucked up situation in the workplace and make it appear as though everything is totally fine and dandy, just because, you know, some middle management was going to be happening by at some point during the day, and me straight up saying to them, we don't have the resources to do this. I'm not doing this. You know, I needed the job. I wasn't in a great financial position, but I'm not gonna fake it until I make it, or help somebody that's above me do the same thing. I'm doing this type of stream specifically to help even one other person, if I can, the way that my role models have helped me. Let me catch up on chat a little bit. I forgot I'm not the main character. Do not. I'll bite you. Do not do that. So it's like Buddhism. Yeah, you could say that. Stoicism is a lot more, in my extremely personal, humble, and not fully informed opinion, a little bit more direct and deliberate than Buddhism. Buddhism, again, you know, prefacing it by saying all those words I just said a moment ago, is about letting go. Stoicism is about tackling the shit out of what you're feeling and making it adapt to into something constructive, becoming material for you to use. Kind of in the same way as, you know, Marcus Aurelius would say, turning it into like fuel for like your internal fire, right? I'm gonna take my hoodie off because I already feel myself getting hot. Apparently the trigger for me feeling this is fucking talking at like 100 miles per hour. A small mode activated. I don't know why I don't know why it gets so small, dude. I don't know why it does that. Why it makes me think that it's doing that. I'm also gonna take a swig because I don't think I'm gonna be able to drink for like another hour. Give me a second. Okay. So, what is Stoicism? That's a big question. That's a big question there. It's a 2,000-year-old Greco-Roman self-help life philosophy that's about living in accordance with uppercase nature, whatever that means. Living in accordance with nature, per the Stoics, is to do everything that we reasonably can to determine what is the most appropriate thing for us to do in any given situation as social and rational creatures, aka what seems like the right thing to do, and then doing that thing regardless of what may or may not happen to us. Our ability to reason, which separates us from other animal species, is what facilitates this constant search to try to do the right thing based off of the best info and the resources that we have. The attempt to try to do the right thing, even if we don't materially succeed at it, Regardless of outward punishment or reward is called virtuous action. It's a stepping stone towards what the Stoics called eudaimonia, which is like the excellence of the soul. So this is all fine. This is all well and good. We kind of covered it in Stoicism 2, the second Stoicism stream. How do I learn how to do this? How do I feel fine about pouring hot sauce all over my shirt? Oh, hello, Melkor. How do Stoics stoically insult each other? Well, that's the thing, is that if somebody insults you, it's just words. It's just sound and air. But really, you just tell them that they're not very good at video games. And that, I mean, who the fuck can do anything about that, right? Who can withstand that shit? Nobody. So we have to learn how our minds work. How do we process emotions? There's kind of like a flow that happens. You get your first impressions, and then these lead to propositions. These lead to something called assent. These lead to habits. Every living thing on the entire planet gets an impression of what seems to be happening around them based off of sensory information. This impression gets combined with like a non-voluntary value judgment, or I guess you could think of it as like an instinctive value judgment, either toward the thing or away from the thing based off of this initial snapshot, whether or not the impression is accurate. For all living things, conscious things, this is as simple as I see food. I haven't had food in a while. I'm gonna go try to get the food. And it could just be like a fruit-shaped rock. Or that thing looks really intimidating. I should probably not mess with it or I'll lose or die. Even though it's just, you know, a peacock doing the big poofy wing thing to make itself look confusing or possibly dangerous. Me, I know I'm not good at games. You not. In RP, I put my hands on I am Poppy Seed's shoulders and I'm like, I know that you're horrifically in channel point dead, but do not say that about yourself. You're better than you think. You're better than you think you are. Don't talk about yourself like that. I can see the parallels to Buddhism. There's a lot of through lines, considering the fact that they, you know, in the grand scheme of things, kind of lined up, started proliferating at around roughly the same time is really interesting from like a meta context. So humans have one tier higher functionality during this whole process. We have the ability to reason. This is what allows us to take this impression of I perceive that this thing is happening and this is either dangerous to me or helpful to me. And what should I do about it if anything, if it's accurate? That extra sauce that gets put on the end, kind of like that one time that I tried to make yakisoba pan because I was inspired by one character. That one character in Aegis Rim 13 Sentinels that was crazy about yakisoba pan, and I basically ended up making what I can only describe as ramen stir-fried in Worcestershire sauce and then put into slightly burnt hot dog buns. Okay? The Worcestershire sauce is your ability to reason as a person, right? Dem noodle is tasty. Holy fuck, you said it. What, Worcestershire sauce? It's Worcestershire. Is that not how it's said? I'm 90% sure that's how you say that. I cannot say it. You said archaeological. So you have more punching weight than you think that you do on the vocabulary front. You gotta give yourself some credit. And you're fancy too, which, you know, we'll cover that. Or you can ask me about it anonymously using the Telegram link. There's no registration or anything. You don't have to put in any details. You just click the link that's pinned to the top of the comments section. Choose a name that seems good, like Booty Slayer 69, and then you ask me a question. And the only reason I'm putting it in there is because sometimes people may have a question. They may have something that they want advice on or are curious about either me or anything else. I will answer literally anything as long as I don't dox myself. And I will have no idea who you are. Like, I'm not going to be able to link it back to your Twitch username or whatever. I still don't know where you got fancy from. Worcestershire. Worcestershire? Is it not Worcestershire? Worcestershire? Is that how you say it? Worcestershire? That sounds fake. Is it from the UK? don't know anything about sauce. I just know how to not let myself get freaked out when, you know, I get mildly inconvenienced in traffic or something. So this thing seems to be happening. This is my gut reaction to it, and then the extra sauce that gets puts on it by our ability to reason, which is what should I do about it, if anything, if it's accurate. Agreeing that yes, the proposition is right, and I should feel that way, and I should do XYZ thing about it, or not, is called assenting. Assenting is what the Stoics called the second movement of the soul. The impression that we had to start is the first one. When you assent to an impression or to a proposition that I think XYZ thing is happening, and this is how I first feel about it, and it is happening, and I should feel this way about it, and this is what I should be doing in response to it, empowers whatever we have initially felt, whether positive or negative, in the situation, and it reinforces the habits that make us more likely to react in a similar way to similar situations in the future. I think it's sure. Worcestershire. I don't like the way that that's making my mouth move, and I know how my mouth should be moving because my mouth doesn't move at all. Which is probably going. Well, not probably. It literally is going to change at some point in the future. I have alluded to it on various social platforms, including Discord. Exclamation point socials. I'm having a secondary model. I hesitate to call it a 1.5 model because it's just really a variation. I'm having a second model in active development right now. It's in the sketching phase. I'm still having little adjustments made to it, but you're going to be able to see my mouth move in real time, and you're going to get the impression when you look at my face that I'm looking at things and that I'm like perceiving things. Like I get that you can kind of tell what I'm looking at based off of the orientation of my face. Like, this is a good model. It's been good to me. We'll probably do the sussy thing and just rotate between the 3 different models to keep you people on their toes. So you have no chance to adapt. You have no chance to get comfortable. You just the moment that you become accustomed to me looking a certain way, I'm gonna completely flip it on you. I'm gonna completely flip it on you and turn it into something completely different. That's cool. Can't wait to avoid seeing it. Oh man. Like I said, if this streaming thing ever becomes part-time, that's the delineation. Is that if there's enough recurring financial support, and there's already a lot of it, more than I expected at this point when I first started, thinking about and putting resources into the streaming. Once I hit that threshold where I can start doing stuff part-time, that's when my whole setup gets moved into its own area. We could talk about getting a green screen, and then you might see Vtuber stuff mixed in with all of it. I'm not married to the idea of being a VTuber. I like it. I like it for all the reasons that I have been, that I continue to. If I didn't like it, I wouldn't have commissioned a secondary model to rotate out. But I think it would be cute. I think it would be cute to have you perceive my face meat and have that visceral, borderline sexual energy.
Welcome to the bonfire, unkindled one.
Thank you so much, Gerchie, for gifting a sub to I Am Poppy Seeds. Thank you so much.
Gerchie
Poppy, enjoy the stabbing
Seeds.
emote that's been used about 15,000 times, or approximately 400, 500 times per day from the time that it was added. The Let's Go emote is also extremely popular. I had no belief that the stabbing emote was going to be as crazy as it was. Vtuber like me, I'm gonna bust. The reason your mouth doesn't move is because you have reached the maximum Stoic OT levels like L. Ron Hubbard. Having played Dead Space and unitology being an analog to dude, I'm already mixing them up. Scientology, that statement hits different for sure. I like showing IRL things on my stream, but I completely understand why people use VTubers. We talk about it occasionally, but the primary reason why I chose to be a VTuber in the beginning was out of necessity. And every time that I mention this, people with good intentions say to me, you could do this, you could do that. This is an option. Have you considered doing this? Trust me, I went through the whole song and dance. I did the whole Ninja Warrior course in my brain. it's the only route given my current circumstances is VTubering. Okay, the area behind me functions basically as a micro hallway around my my furniture setup right now. Okay, so like if I have anything behind me, I'm going to be obstructing the main thoroughfare of the house. Okay, I live in a repurposed, converted community center from like the 1850s. All right, so the ceilings, nothing about the house is normal. The ceilings are like 10 feet high, so it's not reasonable for me to get one of those green screen things that I could just pull down and like go back up at will, unless I get one that's going to be outrageously expensive and not worth the expense. And I would need to get one of like those elderly like claw grabber type things to even have a chance of reaching it. And I'm not getting a step stool just for that shit. I would need more than a step stool. Like I can't stress enough just how unlikely it is I'm going to be able to reasonably reach a green screen that's going to be above me. Okay, the inside, the way that my computer has to be, is the only reasonable place for it, with my camera pointing towards the entirety of the inside of the house. So all I need is one crazy person to 4chan me and to geolocate my house based off of the number of leaves that are on the tree outside my house. All right, so there's a myriad, a cornucopia of reasons why I do be VTubering. I'm start reading chat because I kind of blacked out there for a second. I like showing IRL things on stream, but I completely understand why people use VTubers. I am one too. The Nestbot, we are the fleshlight at the end of the tunnel. Don't say it like that to her. We're the fleshlight at the end of the flesh tunnel for flesh tubers, dude. I kind of want to try VTubing. Good, you should. I mean, you could just get started with what is referred to as a PNG tuber, which is kind of like a wink and a nod. And that it's exactly as it sounds. You have like a picture, and then sometimes people, if they want to get fancy, they will have a secondary picture that has like the mouth open or like the arms are in a different position and so on. So it gives the impression of activity. When you funnel all that into something called fuji.reactive.tech, I think. I'll share the website with you if you're so inclined, if somebody doesn't already. And then you could just set that up as a browser source on your own desktop, and then bam, when you speak, your character jumps up, it lights up, and it makes it look like you're talking. You can also quite affordably go onto any number of sites, like Booth is one. Etsy also has a number of them. There are lots of other VTubers that are in chat currently that can give you ideas of where to look, but there are commercial use type free range VTubers that are out there for anywhere from like 30 to 50 bucks. You don't need to get anything really complicated if you choose to do so. You just have to live with the idea that there are other people that are probably going to have the same VTuber as you are, the same model, and that's fine. Like in VTube Studio, you can change it around so that the hair is different, the clothing is different, like different colored, I mean. But, you know, that's just kind of how it goes. If I didn't have a very particular way that I wanted myself to be presented as a VTuber in mind when I first started doing this thing, I would go for the easy route. I took a big investment. I took a big investment for the current model that I have because I was like, this is how I imagine I would want myself to look if I were to go all in. And if I'm gonna try it, I'm gonna try it. I'm just gonna all in. I would not. Maybe I would have considered it differently if I had thought about it for more than, you know, however long that I did. But we're kind of getting away right now. What are you doing, Step Stool? I'm taller than Stoic if he is 4 feet. You're back searching for repurposed 1850s community centers. It was cheap, but it was also very dilapidated. So, you know, it was sold for probably like 1/20th of what it costs now because it was like abandoned. It was like it basically only the walls and the foundation were salvageable because like 1800s construction go hard like that. It started out as P&G tubing like Mint. There's lots of free customizable ones. One of them was my very first. It's definitely given you a unique and memorable look. Coffee is a veritable font of knowledge. Ask her questions. She's also wonderful to interact with. So the more often that you could do that with her, the better off that you are psychologically. Let me just put it that way. Although, you know, she did warn me that she's going to bite me if I continue along that path. Let me click on Melkor. Great. And I'm going to look at you for a second for non-weird reasons. You are a VTuber also. And you looked at you did Bejeweled stuff. I've seen enough. I'm going to follow you. There we go. And then I'm also going to have enough license to just shout out Melkor the Great. If Coffee likes you, that instantly sells me on your quality as a person, so enjoy your follow. All right, so we were talking about how we do things, right? As human beings, thing seems to be happening. Why is my reaction to it? What should I do about it, if anything? We talked about the proposition, which is how we as humans contextualize it. And then assenting is what actually makes us feel things after the fact. That's more advanced, that's more permanent, more lasting than just the initial, am I going to die from this thing happening? Am I going to continue living if I, you know, divulge in this, or indulge in this rather? So a real example would be thinking you're stuck in traffic because the cars in front of you are slowing down and building up, and you have to be at GameStop in 20 minutes. You have to be at GameStop in 20 minutes when they open because they have some new promotional Pokemon card or something. If you assent to the idea that the cars are going to make you late and this is bad because you value the Pokemon card so highly, you will be upset. You're going to honk your horn, you're going to shriek expletives, you're going to shit your pants. Whatever. If you turn the value inward, the same value that you feel about the Pokemon cards, and say to yourself that you don't know for a fact that the cars are going to stall long enough for it to be a problem, or even further, that it's insane to think that there's no physical inconveniences that will happen anytime, anywhere, when you personally feel like you've got to get somebody to do something. And further, that you should be thankful for every time that you've tried to do something and it smoothly happened the way that you'd liked. You won't be anywhere near as upset. Maybe you'll even be fine and you'll just write it out. Ooh, woo. I think I have a certain amount of assenting dysfunction, perhaps a significant amount of dysfunction. We all do. I'm going to talk about that a little bit later, but we all do. For sure. I do. And I've been practicing this shit for like 10 years. You're not stuck in traffic, you are traffic. Best to just move in a safe fashion, make sure everyone moves smoothly. Exactly. So taking yourself out of the moment just long enough to, you know, start feeling okay is going to help you do the sorts of things that are going to incline the traffic to start moving along anyway. I don't know if I'm stuck, but I very much try to twist what I think into this happens for a reason. And it does. Yeah. Become one with the traffic. All right. I'm going to click on this Telegram link and see if anyone posted anything in here. I'm going to be doing this occasionally, ad hoc. I don't have any kind of timer or anything. I'm just going to do it when it feels good. How does Stoicism, from Anon Y Mouse 8 minutes ago, how does Stoicism approach romance or marriage? So there was a dude called Musonius Rufus, and Musonius Rufus was considered to be like, this is not even like a good way to preface it. I'm just going to say it though for comedic effect. Like the Arnold Schwarzenegger, like the Terminator. It's like the Terminator of Stoics. He's the one that originally taught this other dude called Epictetus, and he was considered like the hallmark of do's and don'ts, like when he was a schoolmaster for the Stoics however long ago. His stance was that because we are born for the sake of each other, because we are put on this earth as social and rational animals to try to support each other to the best of our ability, that when we enter relationships as a natural proclivity to do so, and that kind of union is great because it's already an extension of what we should already be trying to do. We should be trying to meet other people that are trying to self-improve. We should be trying to meet other people that are that have, you know, virtuous characteristics if we can help it. The appearance flatly doesn't matter. It truly does not. It actually is what's on the inside that matters the most. Because a person can be drop dead gorgeous. They could be what appears to be a Greek goddess, and yet, you know, be so completely poisoned in their soul and habits of going about life that you're only going to be doing like active damage to yourself if you're not able to kind of contend with that, with those sorts of behaviors. And there was one guy that the Stoics really thought of really highly, called Socrates. You may have heard of him, who had a wife that was a complete asshole to him. I mean, there aren't many existing examples of how she was an asshole to him, except for the fact that she would do shit like, just like she would bake a cake and then slam it in his face for no reason. Did he do something to possibly tick her off, such as, you know, doing the Socratic method on her when she was just asking, like, hey, can you take out the trash? Maybe she did do that. But the idea is that we're put on this earth to help each other, to support each other, to find like-minded individuals, and, you know, it doesn't necessarily mean that kids need to be raised. It's all about trying to grow. And so if you can do that alongside another person, that's another you. That's opposite of you, that you're able to bounce, you know, ideas off of another person, for you to suggest things that you're struggling with, whether in a Stoic context or not. And that type of support is something that's worth appreciating. I had to move across the country because of personal stuff, but ended up doing insane research and will be published on a paper next year, which will make me one of the youngest people to date to be named on a paper. Awesome. I'm so glad the friends that I have found through streaming. Oh, what's his name? Epictetus' teacher. It was Musonius Rufus. Hugely, unfortunately, there's a lot of Stoic material that is out there that is no longer existing. Like, these guys weren't slouches, right? They put out an insane volume of educational material that's just gone. It's just gone. It's just gone forever. There's no ancient Roman or Greek USB that's floating around underneath the Library of Athens that we can uncover. Like, they have scrolls and shit that they can use modern technology in order to maybe parse or recover new material, but there's not a ton of Musonius Rufus out there. The one book that I can recommend to you to look up is Musonius Rufus's Letters and Sayings, I think. I don't have the book near me currently, but it's all good stuff. And he talks about, you know, getting married, if even getting married gets in the way of practicing as a Stoic. Newsflash, it does not. For real, so nice. Finding an entirely new circle and having mutual interests is difficult to be married to a thinker at times. Can confirm. That truth was to Franny. Sorry, Pastel. Need your achieve. Grats. I'm going to quickly glance to see if there's anything else. If there's not, I'm going to keep looking. When you have a really rough, awful life kicking your butt week, how do you not explode? So for me personally, I do a couple of specific things. One, which is just a nice thing. It's a nice thing, and it kind of like helps you segue into the kind of state of mind that you want to be in. Okay, technically two things. Is find your closest bottle of peppermint mocha creamer, make some coffee. You don't need the coffee. You don't need the coffee. These are just like supplemental materials, all right? You get your peppermint mocha creamer specifically, put it in your coffee, drink said coffee, put on music that you find personally motivational to you. That can either be the kind of music that we're listening to right now. Lo-fi is great for that. You don't need the music, but it's accenting. It's supportive. Okay? Lo-fi, or if you're like me, fucking where is it? I need to go on Spotify for a bit. Listen to anything by Danheim. Hang on, my wife is trying to interface with me right now. Nice video you're being broadcast in front of a live studio audience. How you doing? Yeah, I'm doing the thing. What's up? Oh, am I? Are they bigger than me? Yeah. Oh, you know the sense. Oh, they're massive? Oh, good. I'm so glad for that. All right, I'm not gonna say that. I'm not gonna say that in front of them. Yeah, no, I'm trying to make like a it's like an impact on people's like psychological well-being. What's up? Yeah. No, today was not good in the conventional sense. But I made it work. Well, awesome. That's great.
Stoicism Sigma grinds at Alpha Chat, the most classic streamer.
Yeah, I did. I can talk to you about it later, though.
A true Rizzler.
No, you're fine. Okay, I love you. I love you. Kisses. You're my pudding pop. I love you. Kisses. And she's gone. Wow, what a ghost story. All right, what were we talking about? A really rough, awful. Also, thank you so much for following Hendas. You tell me how you want me to say it. Following seems like a really simple action. It honestly has a huge effect on the algorithm and how it points other people that may also be like-minded towards my stuff. So it's hugely appreciative. Every single one matters a ton. So when I have a really awful life-kicking your butt week, how do you not explode? You can get nice things if it's helpful to you. There's nothing wrong with getting supplemental stuff like that, like your coffee or your tea or whatever it is that you drink. Put on some music, which can either be like lo-fi or however. Thank you so much, Ursula. I hope you're having a great day.
Woot.
Woot. Thanks, Scarlett. You put on some Danheim, whatever, you know, some modern contemporary Viking music, whatever feels empowering to you. And you ask yourself in each individual context, if whatever is bothering you, whether it's stuff that's at work or stuff that's outside of work, what are you when I break you down into your individual parts? How are you problematic to me? When I take you apart and I ask you individually what the name of your different pieces are, whether those individual pieces are telling me that they are bad and that I should feel bad on account of them, or am I saying that I should feel bad about them? And if the answer is no, as you go through the entire list, then you should then ask yourself, piece it all together. Is whatever seems to be affecting me right now, is it telling me that it's bad? Is there no way that I can try to turn this into something constructive or some way to empower myself? Am I completely robbed of the ability to arrive at some other point in my life in the future where I've already overcome this in some way, either just from the situation kind of dealing with itself over time or by some influence I'm going to be putting on it? Is there going to be a point reasonably where I'm just going to wake up and not think about it? So many of the things that we feel negatively towards on a daily basis, even some very severe, really rough stuff to deal with, can inform us that we have more control over how we perceive them, how we react to them, than it seems at first glance. When you wake up in the morning, are you thinking immediately? I'm talking about like right out the gate. Bam, you're conscious. You're thinking about the thing. Has there ever been a time where that has happened, where you've thought about the thing immediately? Typically, no, right? So that is kind of like a hint that even some of the really, really difficult things that we're experiencing on a daily basis, we have some amount of influence over how powerful those things are to us. We are telling ourselves that there is no way that we're going to meaningfully deal with this, reasonably deal with this, that it's just going to be this oppressive feature of my day-to-day life. It might be a long-term thing, such as like chronic illnesses and stuff like that. But if you don't allow those things to overpower you, if you don't give control of your mind to those things and say to them, I'm going to, you know, you are bad and so I should feel bad forever. If you don't allow that ascent to your mind to cross that line, it only has so much influence over you. Even if it's something chronic, even if it's something painful, you will eventually adapt to it. We're just designed that way. Oh my god, this is so helpful, thinking about the day where I feel about what's going on today is a non-issue. How freeing I'm not crying, you are. Are you really crying? Oh my god. Don't cry. Don't cry. Bridget, deploy the cake. I can have a little treat when sad. Nice. Yeah, absolutely. Actually, in my case, yeah, that does happen sometimes. I think about the thing during and after I wake up. Shout out. And I'll explain like how that could be. It's not like a switch that you can flip on or off at will. It's the long term, and we'll talk about that a little bit. So we're back at the Pokemon cards. We're back to shitting our pants in traffic, right? If you turn the value inward, say to yourself that you don't know for a fact that the cards are going to stall long enough for it to be a problem, and that it's insane to think that there are no physical inconveniences that can happen anytime or anywhere when you feel like you're out to do XYZ thing. You'll be fine. This kind of inner discourse, taking yourself away from the situation and putting yourself psychologically above it, is a kind of mental distancing that the Stoics practice regularly to help them avoid getting overwhelmed when every new inconvenient thing would happen. Importantly, not allowing themselves to give control of their mind over to people that seem to have control over the things that you happen to value. This segues really nicely into the next thing that we need to cover, which is the nature of what we typically think of as regular, everyday kinds of emotions that we sort of randomly bounce around between according to whatever seems to be happening or not seems to be happening at the time. The Stoics would call these things passions, these feelings that we typically have, that we grow up with, that 99% of people experience on a daily basis in our various cultures, and they take four forms. Either we have a desire towards something, or pleasure about something, or aversion from something, or fear, like active fear, this thing is in front of me and I hate it, type of something. Remember, shitting your pants in traffic is not a problem as long as you have adequate number of clean pants at your immediate disposal. That's why you have the backup pants in your backup pants backpack is so important. I think I'm pretty good at taking myself out of this situation, not letting it get to me. But there are some things that I can't get past like that. Being trans and the consequence of that in society are the main thing. That is a struggle vote. I can only empathize, but I do, spend about 100% of my mental uptime empathizing. So while I can't sympathize in the literal sense of the word, I do feel that. I do perceive that. All right, we are gonna shout out because I don't know if it was done already. Shout out to Bria, who's a wonderful person and has a great singing voice and atmosphere and infinite patience, putting about 1,000 dots onto her most recent painting. All these people are wonderful. Felicity is literally the best. Yeah. So, although desires and fears seem to be conceptually distinct, they're better thought of as being two different sides of the same coin. When you desire something, you're afraid that thing won't come about. If it happens, you're going to be pleased in the way that you typically think that you would be. I'm going to hit all these snoozing charges so that we don't get hit with ads. Ads are coming up in about 20 minutes. You can avoid them in their entirety by subscribing, which is free with Amazon Prime. If the thing happens, you'll be pleased. If it happens to somebody else, you're going to feel envious, jealous, sad. The Stoics believed that what these things are, the passions, were not actually in line with how the world really operates. That each of us would arrive to the same conclusion if we introspected long enough on our own over a long ass time. So to put it in the most absolute basic terms, we can all agree in chat, I'm sure, unless you're one of those people that says to themselves, how can we tell that we're not getting chased around by giant spaghetti monsters all the time? How do I know if the table that you're looking at is the same table that I'm looking at based off of differences in light between them? Thank you, Ursula, for gifting a subscription to Swerble. Hello, Swerble, my friend, my extremely long-term IRL friend. I hope you're having a great one. Thank you for that. It's greatly appreciated and helps me out a ton. We can all agree that feeling pain sucks, but we can also agree that some things that make us uncomfortable shouldn't be avoided. AKA when we feel like it's our duty to do something. Haha, my streamer said duty. That's the correct thing to do, given our impression at the time. The fact that it's even possible for us to think this way, act on this idea, means that pleasure itself is not a good. If you look at it in a vacuum, the feeling of pleasure as we typically know it, as we typically understand it, as we typically seek it out, is not itself a good. And pain is not in itself an evil thing. Because there are some things that you do that are uncomfortable that we determine independently is the right thing to do. Right? Like, I don't know, cutting wood and shit. And I hated that. I hated that when I was younger. You know, when my dad would bring back the truck. You know, it's like current modern day, but we're still, you know, burning wood for heat. So what is good or evil is what we can all agree to be good in all circumstances, or evil in all circumstances. So we turn inward. We look a little deeper. We are social rational animals that are designed by the nature that be. Whatever the nature of nature is with a capital N, whether nature is completely random or it's a pattern of causes and effects, which is kind of what you touched on before, Coffee, or the universe isn't conscious, but it's kind of appropriate to think of it as a living thing that's just kind of firing on some cylinders, putting it in parts, its various, you know, things that make it up. It's a motion towards, you know, other things in a constant cycle of renewal. It's a little bit weird to think about. Basically, like, the universe is a plant, right? It's just doing things. It's not doing it consciously. Or the conventional idea of gods or God is real, and there do be supreme beings out there that either accidentally or deliberately gave us, the human species, the ability to reason and determine all this with enough time. Or if you're like some guy named Zeno that shipwrecked on a on a beach somewhere in Greece, you know, and walked up to the closest magazine stand and said, "Oh, this is some interesting literature on some dude named Socrates." And then he started hanging out at this place called the Painted Porch, called the Stoa Poikle, and that's why we're called Stoics, aka the people that just kind of hung out at the porch and talked about weird shit all the time. It's pretty much the prospect of positive psychology. It's terribly misconstrued, though. I have many thoughts, but don't want to flood with essays, Lamau. You could do whatever you want. Honestly. If you want to flood, then flood. Go crazy. You can copy pasta me. That's fine. I give you license to do whatever. As long as you don't... I mean, I don't care. Kill a man in Minecraft. That's okay. I give you free pass. You have a green sword. What more could you want? I'm also going to mod Ursula so that she can take lives if she wants to. Mod Ursula... I find it weird that I can have an unlimited number of mods, which essentially makes them like super VIPs. But I have a limited number of VIPs. Right? You know, let me check I'm looking at the Telegram thing to make sure that nothing else came in. Looky. Refresh the page. Okay, we're still at the same. That is totally fine. That is okay. There's no expected runtime for this thing. We're just going to keep going until the conversation naturally wears itself down or runs out of gas or I run out of ideas or whatever. There's always going to be more of these. I'm probably going to be spacing these Stoicism specific focus streams out maybe once every few theme streams. If you're new or newish to the channel, we've been running themed stream community challenges that you can dump your points into. So it acts kind of like a sieve for the points, the Stoa coins that you're gaining over time. They can be like a Yaya streams where we make ourselves look like, you know, Kawaii Destiny cat girls for a bit. They can they can be super cursed, cringy themes. They can also be, you know, like this, which is good for me because it helps me say out loud the words that I'm saying in your brain. You use different parts of your brain to explain things like this that you do when you're actually thinking them and operating them on them in real time. Modding everyone is usually a bad idea. Everyone is well behaved here. That's the only reason I'm doing it. Is that I have seen enough and interacted with you enough individually, but also you personally, Gurchi, that I have the strong running impression that you're not going to take advantage of any of it. I just want to give you a green sword. And I can always, you know, remove you from existence at any point. And how comforting is that? A lot of people believe positive psychology to be a growth mindset, which is true, but it should not be dependent on tangible extrinsic rewards. It says that uncomfort and painful experience should be avoided, since it pushes intrinsic rewards and changes within a person to be better to avoid a bad feeling. Listen, Ursula Jones and I are going to paint the red Saturday. You can't contain the chaos coming. So true. I think that's as succinct as I can get it. There's also, so cognitive behavioral therapy is taking a lot of push and pull from Stoicism. If you want to strip away the why behind why you're doing things as a Stoic, and you just want the meat and potatoes of how do I stop feeling so negatively about stuff, you have CBT. When you introduce the why, like why am I doing this? Why am I trying to feel this way? Back into the mix, it becomes Stoicism. That is a super loose explanation, consideration, composition, explanation of what I'm trying to think of, but you know, that's because I haven't taken a drink in the last like 30-45 minutes or so. So I'm definitely due for that. I'm gonna read chat for a moment as I consume liquid. Give me a moment. Most of the people I have modded in mine generally are all streamers themselves. Yeah, which as it happens, aside from Ursula Jones, 99% of people that are in here are streamers. Oh, thank you. You read my mind. Tia shouting out Lissa. So you know what it's like to have somebody go on like a psychotic bender. Hey, I want to get into this game, but I don't know how good is like the character customization in terms of clothing. What's your opinion? Hi, Megazix64. So if you go to youtube.com/@prostoic, I have a very I have some number of guides that are on there. There are 7 parts, sorry. 7 parts that are on there that are explaining a whole bunch of stuff that may or may not be useful to you. It's very jank. It's very rough and tumble, but there's enough useful information in there that's all timestamped that some stuff may be helpful to you. Thank you so much for the subscription, Spiny. I greatly appreciate it. Or Shell. I think you like to be referred to as Shell. Please correct me one way or another. You're not going to hurt my feelings. But as far as character customization goes, there's outside of the face and hairstyle, there's not a ton. You can lock style some equipment. You have to have the equipment that you want to. How do you word this? In Final Fantasy XIV, there's something that you can do to make it look as if you're wearing equipment different than you actually are. And transmogrification. There is a system like that on here in Final Fantasy XI, but you have to be the level. You have to be the level that you would normally be in order to equip those things, and then you can be whatever level aside from that, as long as it's at that level or below it, in order to lock style the stuff to you. My therapist told me I was too self-aware for CBT to work. That's not true. that's not true. She specifically told me I was too impatient and wasn't sure how to help me better. So new therapist though, good. Hi, hello. I needed your emotes bad. Thank you. I need your emotes too. Do you stream? Let me look. I need them. Give them to me. Gonna do a quick audit of this individual. This wonderful person that I met. Videos. No videos found. Schedule. Last stream 4 days ago. That's reason enough. I'm gonna follow you. There we are. I'm telling you, that's what she said. Well, she's wrong. She's wrong. Ew. Just don't be Galka, or he will be racist against you. That's not true. That's not true. That's not true. Granted, I'm at a disadvantage because I started with a nation that does not actively oppress Galka, but doesn't exactly have what I would describe as an amazing social safety net. So it's like America, you know? That's good. She was like, you're thinking isn't the problem. You're very aware of how situations occur and how to feel. I just feel too much. Are you saying I'm dense? No. I don't even know what I said to make you say that. But no, I'm not saying that. I'm not gonna go through the whole song and dance. I'm gonna give you what I'm gonna attempt to make as a snapshot, bare bones, quick and easy, knees weak, mom spaghetti description of why I think that if you were to try to taste a little bit of stoicism, because you don't need to become a stoic, you don't need to become like a priest, like an orthodox priest, in order to get mileage out of this. Okay, I've helped, I've spoken to people, I've done what people refer to as philosophical counseling. I'm not accredited, I'm not certified, I don't have a degree in philosophical counseling, okay? I have done what would be described as philosophical counseling for people that have had no interest, past, present, future, in Stoicism or CBT. So, you know, there you go. But I also, before I started practicing Stoicism, I was a complete emotional wreck. Completely vulnerable, to feel immediately maximum 9 out of 10 prescription strength emotions towards whatever seemed to be happening to me, or what seemed to be happening to me, or what could be happening to me, or was absolutely happening to me. That's actually what got me going on this path about like 10 years ago or so, was because I was just chilling in my dorm room, and I was angry and sad and afraid of my financial circumstances, sad, angry, afraid of my romantic prospects or lack thereof, because that shit at the time was real confusing. Sad, angry, afraid about not knowing what the future was going to look like, or even what my place in it was. And I remember thinking to myself, well, this is just how life is. There's nothing I can do about it. This is just how everyone feels, right? Who says otherwise? And then I remember some guy named Epictetus was saying things like, you can be happy and at peace if you work at it by turning your what you value inward a little bit, by focusing on being a good person instead of just being thought to be a good person. That is possible, but it's going to take some legwork. CBT is actually typically very difficult to utilize in autistic people, so it didn't work for me. I have meds to help with my anxiety, and I'm in the therapy for the rest, but the reality is that while this is definitely interesting, I'm pretty certain I would fail miserably at Stoicism. Everybody fails at Stoicism. It's built into the kit. It's not about how many times you fail at it. It's about how you try to recover yourself, because even the act of attempting to try to improve yourself is still an action. You're still taking active steps towards self-improvement by saying, okay, I misunderstood, misread this situation. I acted angry. I acted shitty. I felt confused, and I just did what seemed natural to me in the moment, and I feel bad about it, or feel like I should feel bad. Just you having that mental throughput is an act of self-improvement. And so focusing on trying to have repeat acts of introspection, of trying to do the right thing, is the building blocks of what we're trying to do here. I fuck up all the time. I do. There's been times where I'm like, I'm absolutely proud of myself for having handled this situation that I understand would completely overwhelm me in the past, or other people, and is overwhelming people all the time right now. For example, I used to be with someone which up until maybe like a month prior to what I'm about to describe, I was in a romantic relationship with. And then I told my mother, I said, and she asked me, she was like, how are you and this other person doing? And I said, great. We're doing fine. Literally never been better. And then I got hit with the it's not you, it's me type situation. And then you see the Facebook status turn to it's complicated. And then, you know, entered a relationship with somebody else. And then to really fucking, you know, put a screw in things, I happened to completely accidentally get paired up with my ex, the ex that I'm talking about, in a whole ass class during college. So if there was a trial by fire where I had every single day was a challenge. Every single day was the tournament. Every single day was the arena. Sometimes I failed. Sometimes I couldn't help but look at her. Sometimes I couldn't help but think about her. Sometimes I couldn't help but feel like I could just, you know, reassign myself to a different class or ask for like an exception or whatever. But I stayed. I stayed because I was like, this is an opportunity for me, no matter how many times I fail, to not allow myself to succumb to this situation, to what I'm feeling. I'm going to get up there. I'm going to do presentations. I'm going to do my best during tests. It was only until like one particular time where I felt like I was stumbling a little bit, like in terms of my own personal practice as a Stoic, that I attacked it. I went to the professor and I said to her, I know I did a presentation recently. If it seemed like I was really out of it, this is why. And this is how I'm trying to overcome it. She said to me that what I was explaining to her was one of the worst things that a person could experience. Basically being trapped in a circumstance where I had to exist with someone that wounded me. Bad. Like bad, significantly. And suddenly. And while that felt good, it was the fact that I did not allow myself to fall that matters. And so it's the same thing. Same thing towards you. Or involving you. I worry about encouraging the use of CBT because it becomes weaponized against autistic humans. Since its creation, CBT has a messy history, and while it's worse for some, it can also do great harm to others. True. There's all sorts of... like, if the person that is teaching you is not explaining properly what it is that they're trying to convey, or they are, and it's not compatible with the circumstances. That's just not compatible with the circumstances and does nothing to try to help you adapt, if adapting is possible, which I can conceive that it's not in some cases. There are underlying principles that are immaterial, that are not directly tied to CBT as a study, as a field, however you want to word it, that can be used and relied on. It does not have to be like, if you want to feel better about yourself, you have to do CBT exactly like this. As long as you're trying to apply the underlying principles, you're still benefiting. I do that all the time. That's a part of learning to be an actual human. So what you're saying is that every autistic person who's learning to improve their social interaction is actually a Stoic. Lil, we're Stoics. Oh no. I don't know if I call myself a Stoic. Norse pagan. Yes, Stoic. I'm too emotional for that, I think. I agree with you. Re-CBT. At least now I've experienced it. Autistic. Same. Come hang with Flisky and I. We have all the awesome STEM toys. Shumi wouldn't let me have a fidget spinner. Okay, so make sure you yell at her. Back when they were like super popular, I was like, just let me have one. I just want a Batman one. Can you just give that to me, please? So I'm gonna take a moment to kind of spout the normal stuff, which is we're simulcasting to both YouTube and Twitch. Twitch people, if you could find it in your heart to consider subscribing on YouTube, youtube.com/@SimpleProStoic. YouTube people, consider following on Twitch. If you don't care about either platform, that's totally fine. The only reason I bring it up is because YouTube does not deem me worthy of being monetarily supported until I hit 500 subs, which is, once I hit that mark, I shut up forever about it. Never gonna mention it again. You fucking clip me as saying that, you know, when insanely far down the line we actually hit that metric if we do. And if we don't, then that's fine. I've done my part. I'm a Felicity twin, so I'm already in that group. Have you followed? Maybe you aren't live when I'm around, but if you ever are, we'll come see. Felicity is great. She has a great voice, great atmosphere, plays a lot of interesting games, including Valhalla, which is like a cyberpunk. I don't know if it's an RPG. It's like a cyberpunk bartending visual novel, which definitely collects a lot of dots for me personally. Just realized it's 1 a.m. and I have work tomorrow at 9 a.m. I'm so sorry. I have some mini plastic ones stuck. Should I send her home with one? Yeah, absolutely. She's gonna tell you that she definitely gave it to me and that I lost it. Lies. It's lies. Okay, so what were we talking about? Actually, I'm gonna go look at the Telegram thing. Make sure I didn't miss anything. It's a bad that I've been sad for so long that it's the only thing I can feel now. I either feel sad or don't feel nothing at all. Any glimpse of joy was fleeting. My friends have gone. My family doesn't care. Sadness has always been with me. I was sad on my wedding day. I was sad the day my child was born. I've had years of therapy and more medications than I can count. I think I just keep existing out of spite. Am I lost? Because if I'm happy being sad. That there is a lot to unpack here, and I'm gonna try to do it as delicately as I possibly can. I'm only saying this because I lived with it also. Throughout a very significant portion of my life, I was constantly sad. I was not YouTube is not gonna like me saying this. I was not suicidal. Ads are gonna start in like 50 seconds or so. I'm gonna take a break. I'm gonna reflect on what you said to me. Okay, I'm gonna reflect on what you said to me. We're gonna pause here because I've been going for about like an hour and 10 minutes, and then once the break is over, once the ad break is over with, then I'll pick up right back where we left off. Take this opportunity to go to the bathroom, grab snacks, whatever you feel that you need to. I will be right back. Do not go anywhere. I had you chipped as soon as you came in here. Hello. Thank you for that, Fox. I greatly appreciate it. Welcome. Give me a moment because I need to change the tone a little bit. So when I'm going to be talking about very difficult things like this, I try to help myself facilitate the thoughts that are like lurking underneath the surface, that are trying to get out, and say them in a way that isn't like complete word salad or verbal diarrhea. You're welcome for that mental image. I'm gonna change the song for a moment, and I'm just gonna tap into the part of my brain that has what I hope to be the right words, and then I'm just gonna go. Okay, I'm just gonna go. So fucking, if you have seatbelts, now's a good time. Now's a good time to become acquainted with them. Also, hello, Sparkles. Thank you for looking. I greatly appreciate it. Everyone should be back by now. Mr. Bezos only has 1 second of ad progress with you. Okay, so in my own personal situation, I felt multiple times that there was no point to me existing. That there just was no point to me existing, that I didn't know what my future was going to be like. I felt as though all of my life lived up until that point had no intrinsic value. I didn't think about that actively about myself, but it just felt, and perhaps this is even more messed up, I felt as though it was just an acknowledgement, like a statement of fact, like a scientific like a scientific conclusion that I did not have meaning up until that point. And I had no way of determining any way to not feel that way. And that's part of the reason why I went to college. Because at least in American culture, if you don't know what you're supposed to be doing, or where you're supposed to be, or who you are, just go to college. Just go to college, rack up debt. Just go to college, rack up debt, and then you will figure it out. And then that's why like the different college counselors and stuff are there, right? So I went to college, and I took a required intro to philosophy class that I felt, based off of no empirical evidence or psychological evidence,
welcome home,
or otherwise. Thank you so much for following, Fox. I greatly appreciate it. Every single follow matters a ton. I felt as I had to take this class. It was required of me. It was part of my courses, what have you. And in that class, I had a 15-minute blurb said to me about things like, you know, it's possible to be happy just by being a good person. It's truly, actually, not what's on the outside that counts, but what's on the inside. Things like that. And I didn't believe it. I didn't believe it because up until that point, I had the running impression based off of how I was perceiving things all the way up until that point from childhood, that nobody actually thought that way. That if people thought that way, then they would act in line with that. Which, you know, didn't really do for me all that well on the feeling good about myself or my circumstances front. But that's how I felt. The Stoics, at least the ones that we still have some amount of records of, all felt what you're feeling. They all felt what you're feeling. I felt what you're feeling. For example, Marcus Aurelius, who is referred to as one of the 5 good emperors, which refers to a period of time where described in the ancient Rome as like the only times in which the government was actually working towards the benefit or the help or improvement of the quality of life of its citizens. Lost kids left and right. He was dealing with constant strife, all while being an emperor. He personally was constantly sick. Seneca, who's another Stoic, was believed to have asthma, right? And back then, you know, they didn't have inhalers, so living with a chronic condition where you're just one cough away from permanently expiring is not conducive to a great personal outlook. Epictetus used to be a slave. He's well regarded now, but he used to be a slave, and the person that owned him just kind of like broke his leg for funsies. These aren't pleasant things that we're talking about, but each and every circumstance, there is a part of you that is not easy, to recognize. It's not easy to acknowledge to yourself out loud that it exists. It's not easy at all to tap into and even call upon when you feel that you need it most. But there is a part of you that is capable of recognizing that all of these things that feel overpowering, that feel as though they're making you sad, are not ultimately in control of you. There is something that is inside of you that is part of this thing that's in you, that's in me, that's in chat, that refers to itself as I or me, that is capable of overpowering your circumstances, of making it so that each thing that is making you sad can become constructive material for you. It's not an overnight thing. It's not something that you can say, okay, I'm going to decide to start, feeling this way. We grow up, and I'll talk about this a little bit later, but we grow up in our various cultures with this kind of mishmash of comparisons of where we think we are and where we think we are, like, as in terms of like our own personal development, against where we perceive our cultures think that we should be at, given arbitrary things like our age or the amount that we earn, or how how well known we are on various social medias. And so we do not allow ourselves to breathe because we feel as though we need to be constantly comparing ourselves to outside circumstances. And it doesn't help when there's like a constant siege of counterintuitive emotional influences like movies or books or even like streams and stuff like that. Because we think to ourselves that I should be like that, or I should have that. And because I don't have that, it means that I am less. There's something inside of you that is capable of taking this sadness and repurposing it into material for self-improvement. And so how exactly do you do that? Through careful introspection over a long period of time, of deliberate actions to try to say to these emotions that you're feeling that you are not in control of me. I am the acting force here. This thing that is called me, that is called I, am going to be doing XYZ thing to try to overcome you, to tell you this feeling that I'm having of constant self-comparisons, of constant sadness, that you only mean, that you only go, that you only have as much influence over me as I am permitting you to in this moment by moment basis. And it's throughout the day. It's throughout the day. It's when you wake up and you say to it, I'm feeling this way. I'm going to take a deliberate step, one choice at a time, to show you that you are not in charge. I am. And every single microcosmic choice that you're making to try to approach what you're feeling that way, every single choice builds the habit of you turning from a reactive agent to an active one. Things are still going to happen outside of you that make you sad. It's just how it is. Things are going to happen outside of you that make you sad. Things that you're not prepared for. Things that seem completely overwhelming or damaging. Sometimes they happen all at once. Sometimes they happen back to back. Sometimes you have long stretches where you're kind of like waiting for the pin to drop, right? You're like, where the fuck is it? It's like, okay, this is kind of like out of left field, but let me cook for a second. Everybody's played RimWorld, right? Everyone's played Left 4 Dead. Everyone's played the new Dead Space remake because it didn't really apply in the original, I don't think. Each of these games have a director where if a negative thing of whatever severity hasn't happened to you in however many seconds, you start looking for the next awful thing, the next bad thing that you're going to contend with. And it's so easy for us to do that because we have caveman brains. We have caveman brains, and our only defense against our lizard brain trying to fire off whatever neurons are associated with, you know, I have to go seek food. I have to avoid being torn apart by lions, whatever, however you want to contextualize it. There is also an equal part of you that is able to take these circumstances that seem to make you like a marionette and to turn it on its face. But it's a skill. It's basically a profession. And I was gonna talk about this a little bit later, but fuck it, let's do it live. You know, the sun, tide goes in, tide goes out. You can't explain that. This is a profession. What I'm describing, this constant self-revitalization that seems to be being attacked by outside forces at every turn, because we're not raised early or anywhere near often enough with the psychological tools that we should probably have to just deal with normal shit that happens that isn't even instigated by other people. We should, but we don't. So at various points in our life, sometimes even when we're super old, it's never too early or too late. I mean, too early, I guess, you know, when you don't have sentience yet, when you're just like basically like a random neuron firing meatbag running around trying to grab Stanley cups or doing orange justice dances to see number go up on TikTok or whatever, you know, like you're 8. Okay, so maybe like 13, 12, 13, something like that is around the time when you start thinking about like, hey, who am I? what's my point? Like, where am I? What is this? What does any of this mean? Why do I feel this way? So on and so forth. It's never too early or too late, within reason, on the too early part, to start tackling this stuff. People think that that at some point you become too old to learn how to overcome how you're feeling. Literally never the case. It took me 30 years to finally feel like I could make it. I still have bad days, but I know I always bounce back, and me overcoming it, I can help those from my experience, but it's really worth in the grand, painful scheme of things. It is. Great stuff, Stoic. Well said, dude. Thank you so much, Link. I greatly appreciate it. Here, let me refresh this. Make sure I didn't miss anything. Okay. We are back on it. Okay, so this ability to reason that I was referring to, before the bathroom break, before I tried to get you to subscribe on YouTube and so on and so forth. Reason is our defining characteristic as an animal species. It's what helped us survive, and incidentally, it's what helped us sweep the planet. We cannot reasonably exist alone without great difficulty. I know that there are hermits. I know that there are people that go full survivalist in the woods. That's atypical, and they still feel things like loneliness or a drive to have like meaningful conversations. That part doesn't go away. We can't reasonably exist alone without great difficulty. We depend on each other for support. We're closer to bees than anything. So when we tap into this thought process, this kind of basic, this is what I was designed to be idea, we start getting notions of good and evil that's more advanced than simply, this feels good to me, so I'm going to do it. Or this feels bad to me, so I'm going to avoid it. We start wanting to be thought of as being good people or virtuous by other people. Or to not be thought of as being bad by other people or vicious, if you want to use the technical Stoic term for it. When we do good things for its own sake, because of the rationalization that we were put on this earth by accident or by intention by the powers that be in order to commune with other humans, and so helping others is helping nurture this aspect of yourself, that is referred to by the Stoic as virtuous action. When we try to do anything that is counter to this idea, that we're born to help each other, that we're born to self-improve, such as doing things with the intention to exploit other people economically, emotionally, physically, that's referred to as the Stoics by vicious actions. Like I mentioned, since we're not often taught about or exposed in various cultures to ideas like this, even only a little, if that, we sort of grow up with a random assembly ideas that are competing for the pilot seat. Such as, I should be a good person for its own sake, gets paired up with, If I just help out my struggling coworkers a little more than normal for a while, maybe I'll be able to ask for a raise. When you do something that's in line with our perceived design as rational social animals, but with the intention affected or completely replaced by hidden, mundane, typical, conventional desire, you're doing what's called an appropriate action, but it's not a virtuous one. The reason this matters is that whenever you do anything for any reason, again, we build a habit that inclines us to act in a similar way to similar situations in the future. When we act virtuously or attempt to do our best to drive out any competing notion other than, I am doing this thing for its own sake because it will lead to my self-improvement and allow me to inspire others to do the same, we make it more likely that we'll act virtuously the next round. If we act viciously, it'll reinforce the various passions that make us feel negatively towards other people, that makes them enemies in some way, shape, or form in our minds to whatever degree. And that harms the core of what it means to be human. And it causes you real, lasting damage, even if you can't feel it in the typical, like, owie, I just like hit my toe on something kind of way. Because virtuous actions are in line with our design as human beings, and we really allow ourselves to think on the implication of acting towards that end, we're really likely to feel the sort of elation we'd experience when we're getting a new car, or a PS5, or holding hands with a romantic interest for the first time. However, critically, because this feeling and these choices are not rooted in any way, shape, or form in our circumstances, neither coming directly from any physical thing or dependent on any physical thing, it can never be taken away from us. It can never be lost, it can never be buried, it can never be destroyed. We can lose money, we can lose reputation, we can lose our health, but the exercise of choice and the intentions behind those choices are completely invulnerable. The why we do things, not how we do them, or what we ultimately conventionally accomplish, is the real barometer of what is good or evil. What we feel in this particular invulnerable, purposeful way is what the Stoics refer to, and this is going to sound insane, but here we go, as rational emotions. Okay, this is just give me a minute. just give me a minute to explain that. So I mentioned before that we live our lives feeling 4 categories of things the Stoics called passions: desire towards things, pleasure towards things, aversion or repulsion towards things, and fear towards things. The common thread, the connective tissue between all that is that whatever we're feeling is always in relation to something outside ourselves, which is how and why we constantly get bounced around emotionally whenever any number of things that typically happen during the day do or do not happen. Rational emotions are structured a little differently. Instead of desire, we get something, and I'm using Stoic terms here, just bear with me. Instead of desire, we get something called wishing, which is feeling good about yourself as a person and everything you're doing towards that end. Sorry, wishing is good feelings. I lost my place for a second. I've been talking nonstop for like an hour and 30 minutes. Wishing is good feelings or sentiment towards other people. Instead of pleasure, we get joy, which is the feeling good about yourself as a person and everything you're doing towards that end. Instead of aversion, we get something called caution, which is being careful not to slip back into old, unconstructive mental habits. Interestingly, importantly, there is no counterpart to the feeling of fear in Stoicism, because it makes no sense to be afraid of anything that's ultimately in our control to course correct, starting with the very next decision that we take. Epictetus says something at some point that I'm paraphrasing: do not allow yourself to endure 1,000 blows only to give in to the very last one. If you do not give in to the very last one, and you try to take what would otherwise be the very last blow and try to say, I'm going to try to rise above this, even if I feel like complete shit, that fucking matters enormously for your development as a person, for your ability to have resilience to really mess up situations. When we started building a habit of being a good person for no other reason than because it's the right thing to do, no matter how many times we fail along the way, we start making progress towards the ultimate end goal, understanding what our point is. and aligning ourselves psychologically with that point. Living in accordance with nature, improving our soul, the soul being this part of ourselves that I keep referring to as like I or me, is the undercurrent. So that's the point. Now this is all well and good, but it's obviously really difficult, and so it goes the whole adage of if it was easy, everyone would do it. Rome wasn't built in a day, so on. But even a very small amount of progress is still progress. Any amount of progress is more progress than no progress at all. And just like any other skill or craft or practice, it gets easier, and you get more proficient and dynamic with it in time. Sometimes only a little bit of time. Sometimes years. It's really like a case-by-case basis for you, your personal circumstances. But at the end of the day, any amount of progress is still progress. It still matters. I'm gonna listen to my instincts here and check out Link's channel. Just checking. I want to be following people. Want to check them out, get a feel for them. Apex Legends stream. Let's do it. Follow you here. I'm gonna take a glance at the Telegram and see if anyone else posted anything. Okay, we're gonna keep it going then. Any amount of progress is still progress, but the Stoics would go further and say that, like any other skill or craft or practice, it gets easier, more proficient, you become dynamic with it in time. This kind of soul refinement, to put a real RPG type spin on it, is more important than any other skill, I would argue. The Stoics would argue, because it doesn't deal with this specific field. It affects and overlooks life itself and everything in it, including all the fields. It's like awe, you know? Who could have thunk that when you feel in control of yourself, when you feel as though you are the acting agent in a situation, regardless of what's happening around you, regardless of what's happening to you, you do the sorts of actions that would result in conventional success anyway. You are more resilient when stuff gets turned upside down. You're not likely to allow yourself to be overcome with things like harmful, like the harmful end of pride. when things do go well, you don't allow yourself to lose sight of the forest for the trees, or however you say that statement, right? It influences you all the way to your core. And so even if it's really tough, because our cultures don't often equip us earlier often to really start thinking and acting this way right out of the gate, it's all the more important to try. Because, again, the trying is part of it. The trying to self-improve, to help others to the degree that you can, not because you want to be known to be charitable, but because it's in line with who you're trying to be, which is to be flatly charitable for its own sake, is part of it. The first step is virtuous action, and the knowledge that you tried and are trying, again, can never be taken from you. Difficulties, big or small, and they can be overwhelming, and like I said, trying to overcome you being overwhelmed is still an action. It's still something that can never be taken away from you. Difficulties become opportunities to build resilience and strength and courage. Nice things become opportunities for self-reflection and gratitude. Not expressly for the things themselves, but for the overarching intention that they were given in. All right. So that is not what all the stuff that came out of my mouth over the last hour and a half is not all encompassing. There's a lot to Stoicism that I would struggle to argue is even conducive to know. It's sort of just neat. Like, it's neat to know like what their physics system were, or what their physics system was, like how they interpreted things like atoms, or the physical compositional nature of the universe and so on. It's neat. But the ethics and to a degree the logic part is like are the real important bits. Thank you for explaining so thoroughly. I enjoy this because I'm starting to tap into centers of my brain that have not been. I'm getting like a fucking mental workout right now. I'm getting a great mental workout And as I've been going on, I am feeling myself improve by talking through this. And this makes it more likely that the next time that somebody comes to me in confidence or otherwise, or just seems to be out and about and just down or whatever, that I can make an impact on them in that moment. And I do not take that for granted. That is my shit, dude. I gobble those opportunities up. So thank you guys for, one, being so supportive of the channel. No matter what type or context or degree that support is in, thank you for doing it. Whether you've only been here for 5 minutes or you've been here since the beginning, I thank you for that. We're gonna, like I said, we're gonna do these Stoicism themed specific focused streams probably every other, if not every other theme stream that we're gonna be doing on the channel. You learn deeper, more when you teach something. Exactly. I'm finding all sorts of goodies in my own brain. It's good. It feels good. But I've covered pretty much everything that I wanted to cover today. I want to take another look at the Telegram. I'm going to take a quick drink, so if there's any other questions that you may or may not have, feel free to put them in that anonymous link. Again, you don't need to register. You don't need to put any personally identifiable information. In fact, absolutely don't. There's no need. You just click the link. You put a name in that sounds good to you. Again, it could be like Booty Slayer 69. There's no email that you have to attach to it. If there's something on your mind and you feel more comfortable in an anonymized context, absolutely toss it in there. Thank you for your kind words. I will look into the writings of Epictetus and other Stoics. Hopefully some Stoicism will help. Literally day by day. When I first started practicing Stoicism, I was operating in a vacuum, bro. I didn't even know that Epictetus was something called a Stoic. It just happened to be the guy that I was introduced first. I thought it was just like a dude that said some stuff. That was it. It like the for context, the book that I got in college for that intro to philosophy course that exposed me to Epictetus specifically and alone was not good. It was not a good translation. It was not thorough. It flatly mistranslated some parts so badly that I thought that Epicurus and Epictetus was like the same person, that they were just operating under different pen names. So I was like, I guess I'm gonna try to actually think this way. So when I read this very badly translated breakdown of these concepts in this extremely ad hoc, shorthand, you know, bad exposition, I would take what seemed to me to be a nice thought and try to actually think that way in the moment. And I fucked up all the time. I would try to even remember what it was that I read. I would try to find a situation that would happen naturally during the day. I didn't like invent bad situations for me to try to exist in and deal with, because, you know, it only hits different when you try to apply it out in the wild. And sometimes I would just not remember. I would just not remember how I was supposed to help myself work through this situation. And other times I did. And I would just remember. And then the remembering itself was a victory. And when I tried to apply it, and I actually started to feel that way, that was like the first time in probably literal decades at that point. Like multiple. Like it not that my age fucking matters, dude. It was the first time in maybe like 15-20 years where I felt what I would describe as pervasive, deep, meaningful happiness and peace of mind. Was me thinking, oh, I'm not completely at the mercy of random shit happening to me emotionally. That's kind of nice. I love this kind of stream. I'm learning so much. I love this kind of thing. I study sociology and therapy tactics in my spare time, and I find this interesting. Well, that's good. I did have a sociology teacher that would find literally any excuse, and we're not going to go down this road, but I'm just going to say it because it's funny to me still. Would find any excuse to stop talking about sociology and start talking about China. About how he went to China, how he lived in China, food that you could eat in China. He would bring in authentic Chinese dishes and items to show people. It was like this fixation that completely overwhelmed any kind of educational quality or substance. You know? And so I learned basically nothing from my sociology teacher. So maybe you could teach me. Maybe you could teach me stuff. Well, most philosophy is dudes saying stuff when you get down to it. So true. One day, maybe I can actually understand and remember what it's all about. But yeah, I think I'm very in Felicity's camp. I mean, at some points during this whole conversation, I just started rifling off, tapping into the part of my brain that has all this crap stored. Crap being an extremely loosely used term there. So I may even help myself out with some stuff when I start listening to the VOD later to make sure that I didn't accidentally like mute myself or something halfway through. Nice guy, sorry I was doing dishes, how dare you? Get that guy. Get that guy and ban him, my 8,000 mods, get him! Destroy him! Or her. Destroy him or her. Let me check the Telegram one more time. Alright, so we hit our end goal. Which at the very beginning was stated we're gonna keep going until we either run out of gas or I find a natural stopping point. Them is also good. Him, her, them. Let me find somebody to raid you guys out to. This is a shorter stream. I do not normally stream on Thursdays, Tuesdays, and so on. But we earned it. I believe that I helped people, you know, because they stated to me that I did, which is great. I love that. So we're gonna help one other person by taking you as like a big ball of viewers and shoving you into another chat. All right, I'm gonna send you over. I sent people over to Marsh recently, sent people over to Boa recently, sent people over to Sparkles recently. I'm gonna send you over to someone named Sarah Nia. Sarah and Benny are like a duo VTuber channel. I don't know why I struggle so much on that front. They're just nice. They're fun to interact with. I feel like you guys could use a palate cleanser after listening to and thinking about really like intense stuff, like intense like camping type stuff for about 2 hours or almost 2 hours. I salute you for that. Hello, first time caller here. Would it be a good idea to hang outside the psych ward to pick up mentally spicy clown girls? You know what? Go for it, LT Bago. You live your life. You be the best person that you can be. All right. Thank you guys for being here. If you enjoy this, consider following. If you enjoyed this a lot, consider subscribing. Every single cent goes into making these streams bigger or better. I will see you tomorrow. We're going to be playing Dead Space, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard, or your regional equivalent. Greatly, greatly appreciated. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to do this and sticking around. Say hi to Sarah for me. You could just all say in creepy unison that Stoic said that you're great. That's it. That's the raid message. Just say that Stoic said that you're cool and that I should talk to you. Right? Have a great one. Thanks again, guys. I'm going to go not talk. I'll see you later.